26% of Americans carrying credit card debt make nothing but the minimum payment every month. Here's where that gets them. Someone with the average credit card balance of $11,400 at an average APR of 23% will shell out almost $18,500 in interest alone. The payoff period stretches to 22 years. They'll end up paying nearly $30,000 total to wipe out an $11,000 balance. 22 years. That's not a typo. That's what the math looks like when you only send in minimums. You could raise a kid from birth to college in the time it takes to clear one credit card balance, using the approach most people fall into by default. Americans now owe $1.28 trillion in credit card debt, the highest level ever recorded. Total household debt has reached $18.8 trillion. The average household carries more than $100,000 in combined debt across mortgages, auto loans, credit cards, and student loans. Those figures are so massive, they stop feeling real. They turn into abstractions people hear without absorbing. So let's make it real. If you make $40,000 a year and carry $8,000 in credit card debt, roughly average for households in that income range, your debt equals 20% of your gross annual income. But you don't actually bring home $40,000. After taxes, maybe you see $32,000. Now that $8,000 equals 25% of your real take-home pay. You're spending 1 out of every 4 working hours just servicing debt you already created. You're not building wealth, not saving, just staying afloat against interest that compounds day after day. This video exists because staying afloat is not a strategy. Hoping debt somehow fixes itself is not a plan. Making minimum payments forever is not your only path. I'm going to show you the exact system that actually works, backed by research from Harvard Business Review, Northwestern University, and the real-world success of millions of people who used it to get out of debt in 18 to 24 months. Not 20 years, 18 to 24 months. It works whether you earn $30,000 or $300,000. The principles stay the same at every income level. But this video is especially for people living without much room in the budget. People who can't magically throw $5,000 at debt next month because $5,000 is nowhere to be found. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, if money runs out before the month does, if being debt-free feels like some fantasy for higher earners, this is for you. Let's start with why most debt advice falls apart. The standard advice sounds sensible. Pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first. Mathematically, that reduces the total interest you pay. That's called the debt avalanche method. And on a spreadsheet, it wins every time. Here's the issue. Human beings do not live inside spreadsheets. The debt avalanche tells you to attack your biggest, scariest debt first. Often the one that still takes years to kill, even with aggressive payments. You're supposed to stay motivated while staring at a giant balance that barely moves month after month. You're supposed to keep your discipline for years without one meaningful win. Most people don't. They start with energy, lose steam around month 3 or 4, slide back into old habits, and stop. Researchers at Northwestern's Kellogg School of Management studied this exact pattern. They reviewed data from nearly 6,000 people trying to pay off debt and found something the spreadsheet crowd didn't expect. People who knocked out smaller debts first, no matter the interest rate, were much more likely to eliminate all of their debt. Not a little more likely, much more likely. A 2016 Harvard Business Review study backed that up. The researchers found that targeting the smallest balance creates the strongest psychological sense of progress. That feeling of progress directly fuels the motivation to keep going. The mathematical efficiency of the avalanche method gets crushed by the behavioral reality that people need wins to stay engaged. Here's the quote that changed the way I think about this. Personal finance is 80% behavior. It's only about 20% head knowledge and math. If math were the answer, nobody with a calculator would have credit card debt. The problem isn't that people can't do arithmetic. The problem is that debt isn't a math problem. It's a behavior problem. The solution has to address behavior, not just numbers. That's why the debt snowball works when other methods don't. The debt snowball method is almost stupidly simple. List every debt from the smallest balance to the largest balance. Ignore the interest rates. I know that feels backwards, but stick with me. Make minimum payments on everything except the smallest debt. Hit that smallest debt with every extra dollar you can scrape together. Once it's gone, take everything you were putting toward it and roll it into the next smallest debt. Keep going until you're debt-free. That's it. 4 steps. Let me show you exactly how this plays out with real numbers. Let's say you have 4 debts. Credit card 1 has a $500 balance with a $30 minimum payment. Credit card 2 has a $2,000 balance with a $60 minimum. Your car loan is $10,000 with a $300 minimum. Student loans total $20,000 with a $200 minimum. Your minimum payments add up to $590 a month. But you made a budget, more on that later, and found an extra $200 a month you can throw at debt. That gives you a total debt attack budget of $790. Here's what most people would do. They'd spread that extra $200 across all 4 debts. A little here, a little there. It feels fair and balanced. It's also the wrong move. With the snowball method, you pay the minimums on the car, the student loans, and credit card too. Then you take the remaining $430, the $30 minimum, plus your extra $200, plus the freed-up minimums, and you absolutely hammer credit card 1. $500 at $430 a month means that debt disappears in less than 6 weeks. Gone. Finished. One creditor crossed off the list for good. Then something psychological happens. You won. Not in theory. In real life. The balance says 0. The account is closed. You prove to yourself that you can do this. The next month, you take that full $430 and add it to credit card 2's $60 minimum. Now you're paying $490 a month on a $2,000 balance. 4 months later, that one is gone too. Your snowball is building. 2 debts wiped out in 6 months. Your payment power has now grown to $490, plus whatever minimums you freed up. You go after the car loan next, then the student loans. Every payoff makes the next one faster. By the end, you're throwing more than $1,000 a month at the final debt. Money you couldn't imagine having at the start because it was spread across 4 minimum payments, accomplishing nothing. The average person using this method with focused intensity becomes debt-free in 18 to 24 months. Not decades, months. But then the math people object. You paid more interest than necessary by ignoring the rates. Yes, probably. Maybe a few $100s more over the payoff period, depending on your debts. My response is simple. Who cares? That slightly less efficient interest outcome is insurance against quitting. The person who pays an extra $200 in interest but actually becomes debt-free beats the person who used the mathematically perfect plan, lost momentum in month 4, and is still making minimum payments 5 years later. The best payoff strategy is the one you'll actually finish. Research says that's the snowball. Real-world results say that's the snowball. The math nerds can keep debating APRs while millions of people are yelling, "I'm debt-free because I used this exact method." Let me answer one more objection before we move on. Some people ask what to do when 2 debts have the same balance. Pay the one with the higher interest rate first. If the balances are equal, The interest rate becomes the tiebreaker. But that rarely changes much because the difference is usually tiny. The main principle never changes. Smallest balance first, regardless of interest rate, until everything is gone. Before you put $1 extra toward debt, you need to do something that feels backward. You need to build a small emergency fund first. I know, you're drowning in debt, and I'm telling you to save cash. Hear me out. 41% of people with credit card debt say emergency expenses were the main cause. Car repairs, medical bills, broken appliances, surprise costs that showed up without warning and went straight onto plastic because there was no cash cushion. If you attack debt hard without an emergency fund, one flat tire can send you backward. You'll make 6 months of progress, then life happens, and suddenly, you're charging another $1,500 because you have no other choice. The psychological damage is brutal. Most people who take that kind of hit never regain momentum. So before the snowball starts, build a starter emergency fund. The usual recommendation is $1,000 to $2,000. Not 3 months of expenses, not 6 months. Just a small buffer between you and life's inevitable surprises. Keep it in a separate savings account, not checking, not mixed in with the rest of your money. It stays out of sight until a real emergency shows up. Not a really good sale emergency, not a my friend's birthday is coming up emergency. Real emergencies. Unexpected car repairs, medical bills, job loss. If you have to use the emergency fund while paying off debt, that's okay. Pause the snowball for a minute. Make minimum payments on everything. Rebuild the buffer as quickly as you can, then restart the debt attack. That isn't failure. That's the plan working the way it was supposed to. Now for the second critical step. You have to face your debt head on. Most people in debt have no clear idea what they actually owe. They have a fuzzy estimate, somewhere around 15,000, maybe 20. But the exact numbers stay blurry because looking at them hurts. That avoidance makes sense emotionally, but it's financially disastrous. You cannot fix a problem you refuse to measure. You don't build a debt plan from vibes. You build it from an inventory. The fog of uncertainty makes the situation feel worse than it often is, and it makes any strategic approach impossible. Here's what I need you to do. Open your Notes app, grab a sheet of paper, make a spreadsheet, whatever works, and write down every single debt you have. Not just credit cards, everything. Credit cards, retail cards, medical bills, personal loans, auto loans, student loans, money owed to family or friends, collection accounts, payday loans. For each debt, write the creditor name, current balance, minimum payment, and interest rate. Do not leave anything out because it feels small or embarrassing. That $200 you owe your cousin? Write it down. The $400 medical bill in collections? Write it down. The payday loan you grabbed out of desperation 3 months ago? Write it down. Then total it all up. Take a breath. Whatever number you're staring at, that is the starting point. It is not a life sentence. It is not forever. It is simply where you are right now. People with far more debt than you have paid it all off. People with far less income than you have become debt-free. The number matters less than what you do next. Sort the list from smallest balance to largest. Congratulations, you now have your debt snowball order. Pull your credit report from annualcreditreport.com while you're at it. It's free once a year, and you may find debts you forgot even existed. Old collection accounts, closed cards with leftover balances, errors that shouldn't be there. Better to find everything now than get blindsided later. Here's where most debt advice loses lower-income people. The experts say, just pay more toward your debt, as if extra money is sitting around waiting to be reassigned. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, That advice feels insulting. But here's what I've learned from reviewing thousands of budgets. Almost everyone, even people who swear they have zero margin, can usually find between $300 and $1,000 a month that's leaking out unnoticed. Not through extreme lifestyle changes. Not by living on rice and beans for 3 years. Through smaller adjustments that do not require misery. Step 1 is seeing where your money actually goes. Not where you think it goes, where it actually goes. For the next 30 days, track every transaction, every coffee, every gas station stop, every subscription renewal, every vending machine snack. All of it. Use your bank app, a spreadsheet, pen and paper, whatever method works. What matters is doing it. Most people have never completed this exercise. They have mental categories for rent, car payment, groceries, but the small stuff, the $40 here and the $60 there, that stuff lives in a cognitive blind spot. After 30 days, you'll probably be shocked. The "I have no idea where my money goes" phenomenon turns into specific line items you forgot were even there. 3 streaming services you haven't watched in months. A gym membership that's basically decorative. Delivery fees that quietly stacked up. Subscription boxes that arrive, sit unopened, and eventually get tossed. Now create a zero-based budget. That means every dollar gets assigned a job before the month starts. Income minus planned spending equals 0. No money left floating around without a purpose. Start with necessities. Rent or mortgage, utilities, food, transportation, minimum debt payments, insurance. Those are not optional. You need housing, power, and a way to get to work. Next, assign money to your debt snowball. This is the amount above minimum payments that goes after your smallest debt. Start with whatever you can handle, even $50. Something is infinitely better than nothing. Then assign the remaining dollars to everything else. That includes some fun money. You're not becoming a monk and taking a vow of poverty, but it's controlled discretionary spending with limits, not random swiping until the account is empty. Here's one framework that works for a lot of people. 50% to needs, 30% to financial goals, including debt payoff, 20% to wants. If you're in hardcore payoff mode, think about flipping that to 40% financial goals and 10% wants. This is not forever deprivation. It's a temporary sprint with a finish line. The most important idea is treating your debt payment like a bill, not something you handle with leftover money at the end of the month, because there is never leftover money. It's a fixed obligation that gets paid before anything optional. Put your debt payment near the top of your budget, right under rent and groceries. When you get paid, that money goes to debt right away, not later. A few specific places to look for hidden cash. Subscriptions. The average American spends more than $200 a month on subscriptions. A lot of them are forgotten, barely used, or not worth the cost. Cancel aggressively. You can always sign back up when you're debt-free. Food delivery. The convenience fees, service charges, and app markups often make meals cost 50% more or worse. Cooking at home for a few months can free up a serious amount of cash. Insurance. Call your auto and home insurance companies. Tell them you're shopping around for better rates, because you should be. That one phone call often saves hundreds per year. Cell phone plans. Ask yourself whether you really need the expensive unlimited plan, or whether a cheaper option covers how you actually use your phone. Prepaid carriers often offer major savings for basically the same service. Energy costs. Simple moves. LED bulbs. Adjusting the thermostat. Unplugging devices you're not using. You can cut utility bills without making your life worse. Banking fees. If you're paying monthly maintenance fees or constantly using ATMs that charge you, Move to a free checking account. Those small charges pile up over time. The goal is not to remove every ounce of joy from your life. The goal is to identify spending that doesn't actually make you happier and redirect it toward getting free from debt. Most people, once they really track their money, realize they've been paying for things they don't use, don't need, or don't even remember signing up for. Cutting expenses has limits. You can only slash spending so far before real deprivation kicks in. Eating badly, neglecting health, living miserably. When you're already close to the edge, the just cut more advice starts to sound offensive. That's why increasing income is often the faster route to debt freedom, especially for people starting at lower income levels. I'm not talking about changing careers or going back to school for 3 years. I'm talking about bringing in extra money this month, next month, and the month after. Money that goes straight onto your debt snowball. Every extra dollar you earn speeds up the timeline. An extra $500 a month on a $10,000 debt could cut your payoff time in half. Extra income does not just add to progress, it multiplies it. Here are some options that work for people without much time, capital, or specialized training. Sell things you already own. Walk through your home with fresh eyes. Clothes you haven't worn in a year. Electronics collecting dust. Furniture you do not need. Books you are never going to reread. Sports gear from hobbies you quit. Put the stuff on Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, or Poshmark depending on the item. Most people are shocked by how much sellable value is sitting in closets and garages. $500 to $2,000 is realistic for many households just by selling unused stuff. That isn't recurring income, but it's a strong one-time push for your snowball. Pick up gig work, delivery driving, grocery shopping, dog walking, house sitting. These don't require an interview, a resume, or waiting weeks for a callback. You sign up and start. The pay isn't amazing, but it's flexible, and every dollar can go to debt. Offer services you already know how to do. Can you mow lawns, clean houses? These skills turn directly into cash for people willing to knock on doors or post in neighborhood apps. Monetize hobbies, photography, baking, crafts, music, graphic design. Skills you built for fun can become income when you need them to. Ask for a raise. This takes nerve, but it costs you nothing to try. If you've been at your job a while, if you do solid work, if you haven't had a raise recently, ask. Document your contributions, research market pay for your role, and make the case. The worst outcome is no, which leaves you exactly where you already are. But a lot of people who ask get something. Maybe not everything they wanted, but more than they had before. Look for overtime. If your job offers it and you have the capacity, time and a half hours stack up quickly. Even 5 or 10 extra hours a week can add several $100s to your monthly debt payment. Think about taking a second job temporarily. Retail, food service, and warehouse jobs often hire fast. Working evenings or weekends on top of a day job is brutal, but it's temporary. 18 to 24 months of intensity buys you freedom from debt for the rest of your life. The mindset shift matters here. Extra income during debt payoff is not for improving your lifestyle. Every extra dollar should go directly to the snowball. The urge to upgrade your life as income rises is exactly why most people stay broke, no matter how much they earn. Lifestyle inflation is the enemy. Until the debt is gone, treat extra income like it belongs to your creditors, not your cravings. Once you're debt-free, those same income streams can be redirected toward wealth. But right now, they have one job: helping you escape faster. Most people never realize they can negotiate with creditors. They treat the terms as fixed, the interest rates as permanent, the balances as non-negotiable. That's not true. Creditors want to get paid. They would rather recover something than nothing. When a debt goes into collections, the original creditor often sells it for pennies on the dollar, which means they prefer almost any option that keeps you paying. That gives you leverage you probably didn't know you had. Start by asking for a lower interest rate. Call your credit card companies and say something like, "I've been a customer for several years, and I'm working on paying down my balance more aggressively. I'd like to request a lower interest rate." That's it. You do not need some fancy script. A meaningful percentage of people who ask get a reduction. Maybe not by half, but shaving a few points off can save hundreds during your payoff period. The call takes 5 minutes. There is no downside to asking. If they say no, ask whether there is anything else they can do. A temporary rate cut, waived fees, modified terms. Sometimes the first rep can't help, but a supervisor can. For debts that are already in trouble, late payments, collection notices, accounts you've stopped paying, settlements may become possible. Creditors will sometimes accept a lump sum for less than the full amount, especially with older debt. Medical bills are often negotiable, too. Hospital pricing is wildly inconsistent, and billing errors happen all the time. Ask for an itemized bill and review every line. Call the billing department. Explain your financial situation honestly. Ask what options exist for patients who can't pay the full amount. Many hospitals have charity care programs that can reduce or even wipe out bills for people who qualify. Payday loans are predatory disasters, but even those can sometimes be negotiated. If you're stuck in a payday loan cycle, call the lender directly and ask about a payment plan that breaks the cycle. Some states require lenders to offer extended payment plans. Old debts and collections play by different rules than current accounts. Collection agencies often buy debt for a tiny fraction of face value, sometimes 5 to 10 cents on the dollar. That means they can still profit while accepting far less than the original balance. If you have cash available, you can often settle collections for much less than the full amount. Get any agreement in writing before you pay, and understand how that settlement could affect your credit and taxes. Forgiven debt over $600 is generally treated as taxable income. One caution: do not pay collection agencies anything before you understand the consequences. In some states, making a payment on old debt restarts the statute of limitations, giving collectors more time to sue. Research your exact situation or talk to a nonprofit credit counselor before engaging with collectors. Speaking of that, nonprofit credit counseling agencies exist to help people exactly like you, unlike for-profit debt relief companies that charge thousands in fees. Nonprofit groups like the National Foundation for Credit Counseling offer free or low-cost guidance. They can review your situation, recommend strategies, and sometimes negotiate with creditors for you. If you feel overwhelmed, this is a real resource that won't exploit your fear. The debt industry is full of traps disguised as solutions. Desperate people are easy targets, and entire businesses have made fortunes selling false hope to people in financial pain. Let me walk you through the options that sound appealing, but often leave you worse off. Debt consolidation loans get advertised as simplicity and savings. Roll everything into one payment, lower your interest rate, get control at last. Here's the reality. You're taking on new debt to pay off old debt. The balances do not shrink, they just move. The actual problem, spending habits, no emergency fund, no budget, stays completely untouched. And now you've opened up room on your credit cards, which is incredibly tempting to use again. I've seen countless people consolidate credit card debt, feel relieved for a minute, then slowly run the cards back up while they're still paying the consolidation loan. They end up deeper in debt than when they started. Consolidation makes sense only in very narrow situations. If your debt load is huge and will take many years to clear, and if you are completely certain the underlying behaviors have changed. For most people trying to pay debt off fast, It's like rearranging deck chairs while the ship is sinking. Balance transfers work off the same basic logic. Yes, moving debt to a 0% promo card can save interest, but the promo period ends. If the balance is not gone by then, you can get hammered with deferred interest that may exceed what you would have paid under the original terms. And once again, the open credit line becomes a temptation. Balance transfers can be useful as one tool inside a larger plan, but they are not a plan by themselves. Too many people treat them like a solution, when really, they're just a pause button. Debt relief companies, especially the for-profit ones advertising non-stop on TV and radio, often do more damage than good. Their usual playbook is to have you stop paying creditors while they negotiate for you. They charge big fees. Your credit score tanks. Some creditors sue before any settlement happens. The promised savings often never show up. If you're thinking about that route, at least talk to a nonprofit credit counseling agency first. They can tell you whether your situation truly calls for debt relief services or whether a simpler path would work better. 401k loans and early retirement withdrawals are especially destructive. Raiding retirement accounts to pay debt costs far more than the debt itself, once you account for taxes, penalties, and lost compounding. A $10,000 withdrawal at age 35 does not just cost you $10,000. It costs the $40,000 or more that money could have grown into by retirement, plus immediate penalties, plus taxes. You are stealing from your future self to solve a problem that has better answers. Borrowing from family can work if the relationship is solid and the terms are crystal clear. But mixing money and family creates relationship stress that often costs more than the financial benefit. If you go this route, treat it as formally as a bank loan. Written terms, fixed payments, accountability. The common thread with all these traps is that they try to make debt feel easier instead of actually eliminating it. They focus on symptoms instead of causes. They offer relief without requiring change. The debt snowball works because it attacks the behavioral roots of debt. It builds new habits. It creates momentum through wins. It changes your relationship with money instead of just moving balances around. Paying off debt takes time. Even with focus and intensity, 18 to 24 months can feel endless when you're living through it. The biggest enemy is not math or APRs. It's the voice in your head saying, "This is not working," that you can't do it, that maybe you should quit. Everybody hits a wall during debt payoff. Months when the balance feels frozen. Weeks when surprise expenses feel like the universe is personally coming after you. Times when your friends are on vacation while you're eating homemade lunches at your desk, wondering whether this sacrifice is worth it. Here's what I need you to understand. Those moments do not mean you are failing. They mean you are human. The people who succeed are not the ones who never struggle. They are the ones who keep going anyway. A few tactical ways to stay in the fight. Make your goal visible. Print your debt list and put it somewhere you'll see every day. Create a visual tracker, a thermometer filling up, a chain of boxes getting checked off, a debt payoff chart you color in with every payment. Those physical reminders connect you to progress that might otherwise feel invisible. Know your why. Generic motivation fades. I want to be debt-free isn't strong enough to carry you through 18 months of sacrifice. What exactly does debt freedom give you? The ability to be present with your kids instead of stressed about bills? Freedom to leave a job you hate? The chance to finally save for retirement? Peace at night instead of anxiety. Write your why down. Return to it when motivation drops. Celebrate small wins without wrecking your progress. Paid off your first debt? You do not need to buy a new TV. But you can go have a nice dinner, take a day trip, do something that honors the win without adding to your balance. Find community. If you surround yourself with people who think debt is normal, who spend freely, who make fun of your choices, That's like swimming against the current with an anchor tied to you. Look for people working toward the same goals. Online communities, local financial classes, friends who share your values. When someone in your life pays off a debt, celebrate it with them. When you hit a milestone, tell people who will actually care. A shared journey is an easier journey. Do not compare yourself to other people. Social media is the highlight reel. Vacations, new cars, expensive dinners. What you don't see is the debt behind the pictures, the stress behind the smiles, the financial chaos funding the image of success. Stay in your own lane. Where you started doesn't matter. What other people are doing does not change your math. The only comparison that matters is you today versus you yesterday. When you mess up, and you will, do not quit. One bad spending month does not erase your progress. An emergency that drains your fund does not mean the system failed. Those are bumps, not cliffs. Learn whatever lesson the setback has to teach, adjust, and keep moving. The only real failure is stopping completely. Congratulations, you did it. The debt is gone. Zero balances across the board. No more minimum payments. No more interest charges. No more creditors. Now what? This moment is both amazing and dangerous. A lot of people celebrate by immediately spending again, filling the empty space where debt used to live, and slowly falling back into the exact patterns that trapped them in the first place. Within a few years, they're right back where they started, or worse. Staying debt-free means keeping the habits that got you here while redirecting that energy toward building wealth. First, finish what you started with emergencies. Your starter emergency fund protected you during payoff. Now grow it to 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. A fully funded emergency fund means you never have to use credit cards for unexpected costs again. Cars break down, medical bills show up, jobs disappear. When you have 6 months of expenses saved, those things become inconveniences instead of emergencies. Second, build wealth with the same intensity you used on debt. That several $100s you used to throw at debt each month, it doesn't disappear into lifestyle inflation. It gets redirected into retirement accounts, investments, and savings for major purchases. The same behaviors that killed your debt will build your wealth. Budgeting, living below your means, attacking financial goals with focus. Those do not end when the debt ends. They are not temporary restrictions to abandon once the crisis is over. They are life skills that separate people who build wealth from people who keep struggling no matter what they earn. Third, use credit cards only if you can pay them off in full every month. Credit cards are not automatically evil. Used properly, meaning paid off completely before interest hits, they can offer convenience, fraud protection, and rewards at no cost. But that takes brutal honesty about your relationship with credit. If you've historically struggled with credit card debt, if the card in your wallet feels like permission to overspend, if "I'll pay it off next month" is a lie you tell yourself, then credit cards are not for you. Use debit. Use cash. Remove the tool that enables the behavior you're trying to stop. Fourth, guard against lifestyle creep. As your income rises over the years, the temptation grows to spend the raise instead of saving it. A bigger house, a nicer car, pricier vacations. Every raise gets absorbed by lifestyle expansion instead of wealth building. That is why people earn more and more and still never feel financially secure. Their lifestyle grows to match their income, leaving them forever on the edge no matter how much they make. Fight that on purpose. When you get a raise, save at least half of it before changing your lifestyle. Keep living below your means, even as your means increase. Fifth, teach other people. What you've learned, budgeting, debt snowball, behavioral finance, is not common knowledge. Most people stumble through their financial lives, without understanding the core principles that could help them. Share what you learned. Help your kids build financial literacy early. Support friends who are facing the same struggles you already beat. The skills you've built can change lives besides your own. Let me tell you what happens when you become debt-free. You stop checking your bank account with dread. That knot in your stomach when bills arrive disappears. The anxiety humming in the background all the time, so constant you stopped noticing it, finally goes quiet. You have options. The job you hate but keep because you need the paycheck, you can leave. The dreams you kept postponing because there was never enough money, they become possible. The generosity you wanted to show but could not afford, it becomes available. This is not about becoming rich. Plenty of high earners are drowning in debt, while modest earners quietly build real wealth. It's about owning your life instead of renting it from creditors. It's about every dollar you earn being yours instead of already claimed by your past decisions. The debt snowball works, not because it's mathematically perfect, not because it's the absolute fastest path on a spreadsheet, but because it matches the way real people behave, the way motivation actually works, the way progress actually feels. Researchers have studied it. Millions of people have lived it. The method is proven. What's left is execution. Listing your debts, building the emergency fund, making the budget, finding extra money, sending the payments, celebrating the wins, staying in the fight when it gets hard. Nobody else can do this for you. No magic answer will erase your debt overnight. No government program, no inheritance, no lottery ticket is coming to rescue you. But you do not need outside rescue. You already have everything required to begin. The same income that feels too small can become the foundation of debt freedom. The same situation that feels hopeless can turn into a story of victory. 12 months from now, you'll still be here either way. 24 months from now, the time will pass no matter what. The only question is whether you'll be closer to freedom or still trapped in the same place. The math is secondary. The behavior is everything. The debt snowball works. Now you have to work it.